Excuse me. So good afternoon and welcome to our April webinar series brought to you by CPS HR Consulting, your partner for HR in the public sector. In today's webinar, we'll be learning how to elevate your business documents with design dynamics, presented by CPS HR training instructor, Allison Horak. Before we kickstart this session, I just have some quick housekeeping notes for you. So this webinar is being recorded and it will be accessible for replay. We will be posting the recording on the CPS HR webinar webpage for your convenience to view at another time. All attendees are in listen-only mode to ensure the best audio quality for everybody. Please feel free to use the chat feature to engage in conversation and share your thoughts with one another. If a question pops up during the webinar, don't shy away. Just use the Q&A feature to send your question in, and we'll tackle as many as we can towards the end, time permitting. And you can find that at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. Now, without further delay, I'm going to hand it right over to Allison to enlighten us on all things design dynamics. Allison, take it away.
Thanks, Marissa. I appreciate it. So welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here for this free webinar. It is a promotional webinar, we don't need to hide that fact. I am promoting a half-day class on this topic, which will happen in June. So I'll tell you more about that at the end, the exact date. But I'm really excited about this topic. I am a business writing instructor, among other things, but that's a topic that I really care about. And I wasn't always that dialed into this topic of design. And so I want to share with you my enthusiasm on this topic. So let's jump in. So I'd like to show you first the agenda for that half-day class that I am promoting right now. So in the half-day class and today, we will talk about 5 design principles. I'm going to show them to you quickly. We'll talk about them a little bit more momentarily. But the 5 principles that, there's more than 5 design principles, I'm sure, but the 5 that I think are particularly relevant to business documents are proximity, repetition, alignment, contrast, and the hardest one of all, restraint. Not being too extra. That's not always my forte. I like being extra in a lot of ways, but we do need to be restrained sometimes with our designs. Okay, so those are the principles that will apply to different business documents. And the 3 main categories of documents that I intend to focus on in the half-day class are emails, PowerPoint slides, and then reports and memos. Basically, I'm just meaning like a Word document, however you use that in your world. So today, in our hour together, we will look at 2 redesigns of documents, emails, and an email and a PowerPoint. Also in the half-day class, I did put this box up on the right, we'll talk about different design elements, like how to use bullet points effectively, the best way to create headings. How should they read? Should it be in the form of a question? Should it be a statement? Should it be one or 2 words? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the use of graphics and specifically incorporating graphics into our documents so they look seamless and they look like they're meant to be there and they're not an afterthought. And then perhaps the most controversial of all, we'll talk about the use of emojis. Is it appropriate now? When? Are there any that are off limits? Yes, etc. Okay, but today, what we're mostly going to focus on are some of the design principles, and we'll just look at an email and a PowerPoint, a single slide. Okay, so let's jump in. Marissa, could you please launch the first poll? I have 2 polls for you today. This is the first one. We'll do another one at the end. But the question is, which design mistakes bug you most? And I have a list of 5. So I'll leave this open for a few seconds. We'll see what happens. I do not have anything in mind. I don't have a prediction about which one you're going to choose. I'm really curious about this. we're getting a lot of participation. Maybe let's go to 45 seconds, please, Marissa, and then we could close it and show the results. So about 5 more seconds. Thanks, everyone. We have almost 100% participation in this. I appreciate it. Okay, so can everyone see it now, Marissa? I just want to I know what I can see. I don't know what you can see, but the number one answer, half of you said the design mistake that bugs you most, cluttered layouts with too much text. And the second most prevalent answer was inconsistent font styles and sizes. Interesting. All right. So thank you. That's helpful to me as the designer of the course. So thank you. All right. I think you could see it now. I may have missed the boat there, but you could see it, right? There's the results. Okay. So let's move on. We will talk about how to avoid some of those annoying things. We don't want to be the annoyance, right? So just some preliminary stuff. I already mentioned that one of my areas of expertise is business writing. And my true confession to you is when I first became a business writing instructor, which is more than a decade ago, I never talked about design, like probably in the first 3 years. I did not talk about design. I didn't know I should be talking about design. But of course, the more I read and the more informed I got, the more convinced I became that this is a necessary part of being a business writer, is knowing at least a little bit about design. So I am not hiding this fact. I am a self-educated student of design, which is a nice way of saying my background is not in design. I don't have a degree in design or anything related, but I have done a lot of studying on my own. And I am totally convinced we can all be self-educated students of design. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But everything that we'll discuss today and in the half-day class can easily be done. You don't need any special skill sets. You just need to have basically Microsoft Office, which I'm convinced everyone does. So this is just a little bit of a freebie. In case you didn't know, on LinkedIn, you can earn badges for your technical skills. So if you feel like, I think I'm pretty proficient at Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, you can take a free assessment on LinkedIn, and depending on how you score, you can earn a badge. So here's just a picture of what you get. It's linked to your LinkedIn profile, and this is my badge that I got for PowerPoint. And so that's just a little like side note, but you can kind of test where you are as far as your proficiency on certain platforms through LinkedIn. Okay, so I have this ginormous eyeball on the screen because again, we can all be students of design basically by looking around. So I'm just encouraging us all, and you may be there already, but develop a critical eye. I know on some level we all know this, but everything that you encounter that's in writing was designed by someone. They made a decision about what font to use, whether to just use the default settings or whether to customize it, how big the font is, whether to include a picture or whatever, right? So wherever you are, sitting in the doctor's office, driving on the highway, ordering off of a menu at a restaurant, of course, accomplish the task. Pay attention to your driving, order the spaghetti, whatever. But look at that menu. Look at that pamphlet in the doctor's office. Look at the billboard as you drive by. What do you like or not like about that document, that thing that's in writing? And that really can help inform your business documents. Even if you're not necessarily reading a traditional business document, it's still, you're honing your own designer's eye. And in a way, you're honing your own style. So I think design accomplishes a lot for us business writers. I think when you adhere to design principles, your document, no matter what it is, looks intentional and it shows you care about the reader experience. It also conveys professionalism. It looks like you're proficient in the tools of your trade. Okay, this third one. Design increases the likelihood that your document is going to be read. Now, I'm going to say something that may sound a little harsh. I don't mean to offend anyone, but here we go. No one wants to read what you wrote. And the same is true for me. I was in a seminar one time, and the presenter said that, and I was kind of like, hair flip, hair flip. People are dying to hear from me. No, no, they're not, Allison, and if we're honest, no one's really dying to read our email or read our annual report. Or I'm not saying that the work we're doing is not important. Of course it is. But when people go on vacation, they don't take our budget change proposal. They take like People magazine or something. Why? Because it's more fun to read. So we're at a disadvantage as business writers already because no one really wants to read what we wrote. Are you feeling me right now? You could put a Y for yes or an N for no in the chat. I know it's a little harsh, but do you agree that we're at a little bit of a disadvantage as business writers? Okay. So we want to, I see, I see your responses. Thank you. We want to embrace things that make it more likely that people read us because we took the time, right? We've done the research or whatever. We want to be read. And then also, I do believe that design makes our message more clear. So I believe that you can have your own style. I'm not trying to make my style your style. And I may show you some things today that you're like, I think I would have done it differently. First of all, that's totally normal and it's okay. But so I think we can all have our own style, but still follow these design principles and also follow our agency's style guide, which we are expected to follow. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. Yes, Debbie, people are inundated with stuff to read. Yeah, we're in a battle for people's attention, basically. Totally agree with that. Okay, so very quickly, I mentioned those 5 design principles. I'm going to define each one of those 5 because this, I don't know about you, I don't really like it when promotional webinars are only promotion and don't give me any substance. So I wanted to make sure you had substance, okay, today. So here we go. The first design principle is proximity. What does that mean? Well, it is probably what you would guess it is, but related things should be grouped together. There should be some physical relationship if there are concepts or whatever on your slide or in your email or in your document that relate. It's not a crazy idea, but there it is. That's what it means, proximity. The next design principle is repetition. We are talking about repeating certain design elements. Consistency unifies your design. And again, I don't care what the document is, you want to have that repetition. Now, some of you may have already noticed, you may have already seen some repetition in my presentation so far today. One thing that I have repeated is I have used I just put the CPS HR logo, little branding there, but okay, I have used their color scheme, our logo's color scheme throughout my presentation today. So that's one thing I've repeated. The other thing I've repeated is my use of fonts, consistent use of fonts throughout. Those are just 2 examples. Okay. Next, alignment. Here's that principle. Everything that's on your document, whether it's a slide, email, or Word document, everything that's there should align, and that just means be in line with at least one other thing. Randomly placing objects in your document is a no-no. It just kind of seems like random confetti. Confetti has its place, but not in our documents, right? When you put things in alignment with each other, whether it's vertical or horizontal alignment, this slide has horizontal alignment, right? Then it looks intentional. Okay, fourth principle, contrast. It's exactly what you think it would be. When you have some kind of conflict, something that doesn't match, it captures your reader's attention. Now, you may be like, she's talking out of both sides of her mouth, because you said with repetition, you repeat a design element, and then contrast, you kind of go, oh yeah, watch this. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, I do believe they can coexist, but like if I wanted something on this slide to stand out, I might use black, the color black, because there hasn't been any black in this whole presentation so far. And it's not one of the CPS HR logo colors, it would stand out as like, oh, wow, I guess I'm supposed to be looking there right now. So that's an example of using contrast to capture your reader's attention. Then finally, our last principle, like I said, for me, the hardest one, restraint. Overuse of any element undermines it. Even something as simple as, let's say, bold. Bold, very simple. It's on the Home tab in Word and PowerPoint and Outlook. It's there. We should be using it. But, so if I were writing an email, I might use bold to highlight a deadline. But then if I also decide to bold for other like keywords and phrases or whatever in the email, now my reader doesn't really know where to look. And the importance of that deadline has diminished, because now there's all these other things where I've used all these other elements that are also bolded. That's just a simple example, but there's a lot to be said for using restraint, even though it's difficult for some of us. Okay, I'm just going to pause here. What comments or questions do you have about these design principles? Or is there one that you feel like, I can't believe she didn't talk about X or whatever? I'm just kind of going to leave you some space in case anyone has some input. But we're going to revisit these when we look at our two examples today. Okay. Yeah, Casey says, thanks, Antoinette. Casey says, will you give an example of proximity? Well, the one that springs to mind for me, Casey, is, and I know this makes me kind of sound like a hater, so buckle up, but when you open up a template in Microsoft, I like a lot of the Microsoft templates as far as the design. What I don't like is how far away the title is from the body. Often, in my opinion, they're too far away. The title is like hanging out at the top and then like an island unto itself. And then, I mean, a pretty far way down, then the body of the slide starts. I almost always adjust that. I raise the body so it's closer to the title to show the proximity of the title, like my body content directly relates to the title. Another way, I kind of have a complaint about the Microsoft templates is I usually feel that the bullet points, the dot itself, I'll do it for your perspective, the dot is too far away from the words. They look like people at a junior high school dance on separate sides of the gym. They're so far away. The words that relate to the bullet point, they shouldn't be, claustro on top of it, but it should be much more close. So I almost always adjust my bullet points so the words begin closer. So those are just two examples of where I would manipulate proximity. Okay. So Michelle says use of color or wrong colors together. That's a big one, Michelle. I may have to punt on that one. I'll kind of take the easy way out, Michelle, and just say probably your style guide controls what colors you should use. And if your style guide doesn't talk about that, I would stick closely to your organization's color scheme to the extent you can. There's a lot about color theory, one other piece of advice about color is try not to use more than 3. Now you may be like, get a load of her slide. It's got 6 colors on it. Well, I would say really there are 3 colors here. There are just different gradients, right? There's the magenta, the green, and the gold, and just gradients of those. So there's a little bit, Michelle, about color theory. Yeah, Mendy, totally agree. White space is important. We have to give our readers' eyes a break. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, and then Debbie, you mentioned like the contrast between the background and the elements. That's really important. It's just important in general, and there's also some accessibility concerns with that. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, Lisa, I'm not using the word contrast as a design principle to mean the contrast like between the background and the font, but that concept is also important, especially in slide design. And then I'll look at Marcia's question, then I'll move on. How about centering versus left justified? So much easier to read when it isn't centered. Oh, Marcia, I'm with you. Now, this, of course, is centered, I admit, okay, but I almost always make things left justified on a slide, especially, even if the template makes it centered. I'm not saying everyone agrees with this, but I've read a lot of design experts who do agree that when you center the title of a slide, it looks less sophisticated than when you make it left justified. And one thing we can't, that's a matter of opinion, but one thing we can't argue is that when we read documents, most things are left justified, paragraphs are left justified. So it is more what we're used to seeing. And I do think that slides look a little bit more sophisticated when the title is left justified rather than centered. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you so much for all the questions and comments, everyone. I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to show you something that's an email. Now, I've intentionally made it blurry. That may seem weird, but here's the deal. We're going to be focused on our response to this email. But I just wanted to find out from this room of professionals. I'm going to show you this blurry email, and you could put a Y for yes or an N for no in the chat. If you want to explain your answer, you can. But I just want to get like a gut check from you. Do you want to read this email? Why or why not? Now, because we can't control what lands in our inbox, right? We can't control if anyone paid any attention to design or not. And I'm not going to tell you what I think about this email. I just want to know what you think based on the blurry version. So I'm just going to give you a couple seconds. Here it is. Do you want to read that? Yes or no? Make just a gut reaction. Don't try to figure out what it says. I will show it to you in a minute. Okay, lots of no's. I have a colleague and friend who is here. I won't call her out, but when she did a practice run of this webinar with me, well, I know it's blurry. I made it blurry, Debbie, because I didn't want you to get caught up with the words. So that's my fault. But my friend said, ooh, a happy face. I want to read it. So I didn't know if people would say yes or no to this. But yeah, Christina, it is kind of a solid wall of text. Okay, so this is based on a true event. I did get an email that looked very close to this. Okay, so here's what it said quickly. Allison, a client would like to offer a master trainer series for their internal trainers. Would you like to teach it? Happy face. Yes, I would. They want to get started in August, offer one course per month for 4 months. Here's a list of the courses they want. Can you give me dates for each month? They'll be virtual. Thanks. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I think is a fairly common response. Here it is. This is possible response number 1. Thank you. Yes, I'm interested. Here are some dates. There's a list of dates. Let me know what the client decides. Thanks, Allison. I think that's pretty standard. I don't know about you, but this looks like a lot of emails I receive. I would call this okay. My question to you is this, and you can use the chat for this. If you had the opportunity to make one change to this email, what would you do to improve the design of the response? The thing on the right, not the thing on the left, just to be clear. I'm seeing your answers come in. Almost unanimous. I wondered. I did take an educated guess at what you might say. Almost everyone is saying something about those dates, all jammed up in like sentence format together. And many of you suggested bullets. So thank you. I'd like to show you possible response number 2, where I guessed that you might say that. So here we go. Here's the redesign. Same info, right? Thank you. Yes, I'm interested. Here are some dates. And then I grouped August, September, October, November. They each get their own bullet point, right? Okay. Lots of people giving me affirmations. Thank you. Mai says, I will read that. Good. Now, I'm going to push you a little further. Lisa, interesting. Okay, I'm going to push you a little further. And Lisa has kind of answered the question already, but let me pose it for the rest of you. If you had to improve on the design of this response, what's one thing you might do to improve response number 2? Days of the week, alignment of the dates, a table, bold the months. Okay, really good ideas. 2 columns, use their name, separate the thanks, sub bullets, give each date a separate line. Okay. I'm taking a look. I'm trying to see them all. Upload an image of the calendar. That's interesting. Don't abbreviate. Space below and above the list. A little more white space in the bulleted list. Write out the month and include the year. Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Lots of good ideas. So, and if you haven't typed them yet, go ahead, get them in there. Okay. So I'm going to show you something that's very close to how I actually responded. Okay, because this is, of course, I did a little editing to, protect the sender, but here is how, almost exactly how I responded. So my boss sent me the email on the left. Here is my response, and you don't worry about my feelings, okay? But I do want to know, what is your reaction to this response? It's the same info, except I did use lots of the advice that came in the chat right now. I put it in a table. Now I've included the name of the classes, how long each of the classes are. I repeated the month. That may seem duplicative to you. That's okay. That's okay if you don't like that. Maybe you're like, I would get rid of column number 3. That's fine. That's fine. It may be duplicative. It is what the client asked for, which is why I repeated it. Okay. Okay, and I see your comments coming in. Thank you. All right, now, it is possible that some of you might be thinking or feeling this right now. this kind of screams Allison has too much free time. Allison's just a little bit extra. She really likes this topic, and so she's, you know, doing more work than she really needs to. Some of you might feel that it's over designed. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, right? Everybody, we all have our different styles. But what I would like you to consider and respond to is this question. Why might, or either why or when might you choose to do this rather than kind of be content with possible response number 2? When might you do this? Maybe to show off my skills. That wasn't my intent, but okay. um, when it's, sorry, I got lost. Okay, there we go. When it's going to a larger audience. Tina says, response number 3 eliminates having follow-up questions. I hope so, right? I can't guarantee that, but I hope so. Caesar says, client facing all day. Okay, I'm going to come back to that, Caesar. When it's going to the client, says Lisa. Professional proposal, says Debbie, versus internal. Yes, good. And I can't read all of them, but thank you. I'm seeing them. I appreciate it. Janet mentions formality also. Good. Crystal says, when you're advertising the classes. So I will thank you so much for all the responses in the chat. I wish I could read them all. Marcia says, Allison is very organized, and or the client can copy and paste this table. Okay, so Marcia, that was my mindset. I wanted my boss to be able to first of all, be very clear about what I was offering. And secondly, be able to copy that table and plop it into a response to the client, and my boss looks like a superstar. That was what I wanted. So that is why I did it. Often my emails look like response number 2. And I'm fine with that. Occasionally I do go above and beyond. It did not take me very long to do this. I inserted a table. I gave a few seconds of thought to, how many columns I needed. And it was very easy. Okay. All right. So thanks for having that discussion with me. Just to wrap this up quickly, here are those 5 design principles. Can you spot one or more that you feel I used in this number 3 redesign? I know our introduction to the principles was brief. Yeah, definitely alignment. A table is inherently aligned, right? And then contrast, specifically that last column where I just used that light yellow, but my point was to draw the attention there because that is what my boss asked for. What dates do you have? What dates can I offer the client? Yeah, repetition of the brand colors, absolutely. Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So we're a little bit past the halfway point. I'm going to motor forward, everyone. This is just a blank slide. It's meant to be a palette cleanser. Okay, so I told you we'd talk about an email, which we did. Now we're going to talk about a slide. Now, rather than, so in just a moment, I'm going to forward my slide deck and you will see a slide. This is a slide in an original format that was shared with me. It's a real slide that someone was using in a professional presentation, but they did offer me their slide deck to use in case I thought any of the slides could be improved upon. And so rather than it just being like an open forum, like what would you change about this slide? Okay, I want to ask you a little bit more pointed question. So I'll tell you the question and then I'll show you the slide. So my pointed question to you is this. What Linda is loving this slide. This slide cannot be accused of being extra. Yeah, okay. This is our palette cleanser. All right. So my question to you about the slide you're about to see is this. What's the most important information on this slide? And I do want you to think about that question. You don't have to answer me in the chat unless you want to. What I do really want you to pay attention to is how many seconds, you don't have to time yourself, but just kind of keep track mentally. How many seconds does it take you to figure out what the most important information on this slide is? Because in my opinion, it should take 1 second for a person to know, a person looking at a slide to know what's most important. Okay, so here is the slide. So you're thinking about what's the most important information on this slide. If you think you have an answer and you want to share that in the chat, of course you may. But I do want you to be thinking about how long it's taking you to figure it out. So, of course, different, I didn't know what you all would say, but if you're looking at the chat as I am, we are getting a lot of different answers, which does tell us something. I mean, you may be like, well, there may be a lot of answers, but I'm right. Okay. I'll just share what I think the most important information on this slide is. It did require me, and you may not be like me, but when I was first shown this slide, I had to read the entire thing to figure it out. And I was still doing a little bit of mental gymnastics. I was taking a guess. This is what I think is the most important business on this slide. It's the stuff over on the left. So one problem that I have with the title is it says step 3, emergency roles and responsibilities. Okay, first of all, that's not a step. A step requires there to be an action word. A step is, okay, you're going to do something. What am I doing? I do not know. There is no. Yeah, so Robert, there were slides that preceded this. Yeah, there was a step 1 and a step 2, but they all had similar problems, which is they weren't steps. So, right, there's no action here, so I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. But I will tell you, this is a presentation on creating an emergency plan for a daycare center. So what you're supposed to do is assign emergency roles to certain people. I don't know if any of you noticed, but there is nothing on this slide that has to do with responsibilities. Just someone knew the phrase roles and responsibilities and they just slapped it on the slide, but it doesn't even make sense because these are only roles. There are no responsibilities. Okay, so really the title should be step 3, assign roles or assign emergency roles. And then the ones that are required are over here on the left. So if you're going to be in compliance with the law, you have to have a person assigned to those 4 roles. Well, it sure feels like you have to do a lot of work to get there. Now, of course, in real life, if you were giving a presentation, there would be a human, right, kind of explaining to the audience. But if you gave someone a PDF of these slides as a handout, I don't know that they would walk away with that info. So here, I'm just going to show you very quickly my idea for redesigning it. You don't have to like this, but I will share my thought process in why I did it this way. So one thing is that picture in the center, as far as I'm concerned, is gold. but it's totally lost here. It looks like an afterthought. It's not really aligned with anything, and it's too small to be powerful. Now, the reason I like it personally is because of all the diversity in the picture. Age diversity, gender diversity, race diversity. It's ticking a lot of boxes, right? So what I did was make the picture the whole slide. Now, it's a very vibrant picture, which is nice, except when you go to put words on it, it makes the words hard to see. So I tinkered with the transparency of the document and I did that. Now, that may look washed out to you, but I think it mostly looks washed out because you just saw it in its original state. I think if you just saw this, you wouldn't think too much about it. And just in case you don't know how to do that, anytime you plop a picture into PowerPoint, you get this, I just put it in the upper left-hand corner, you get this new tab, picture format. You click on that, you click on transparency, and then you have all these options, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%, whatever. I think that's roughly the math. Maybe my percentages, don't take my math too seriously there. But right, there's gradations of transparency, and you can choose which one you want. Super easy, no special skills involved. Okay, so here I have this slide that I think is much more able to take font on top of it now. So I wanted to do something a little different, and I actually put the title of the slide at the bottom. This group's color was blue, so I added this bar at the bottom. I made it light blue. I put the step, assign roles. I do have a reference to why this is required. And then there are 4 people in the picture and there are 4 roles. So I put the roles above their heads because that's what I want my audience to do. I want them to think, okay, Mike could be the first aid coordinator and Sarita could be the communication coordinator, right? I want them to think, I need a person in each one of these roles. So again, you may not like my trapezoids or whatever, that's okay. But I hope we can agree that the most important information is front and center on this slide. Okay, so if you want to see them side by side, here they are. The original's on the left. My redesign is on the right. You may have done it differently, and that's okay. But what I'm really trying to get us to do in this webinar and also the half-day class is think about our audience. What do they need or want from us, from our documents, and are we giving it to them? So I'm going to ask you a similar question that I asked about the email redesign. Here it is. Thinking about the redesign that's visible now on the right, which of the 5 or multiples of these design principles do you feel I used in this redesign? Yep, Casey, definitely repetition. Yep, Mindy, Maureen, alignment. Yes, there is some contrast. Linda says all of them. She's throwing in everything. Sure. I tried to show restraint. Yeah. Yeah, good. Okay, so that of course is one thing you can do yourself, right? You could do a screenshot, whatever, of that pie chart that's on the left. You could put it on your cubicle wall, and just as you are writing emails, you're creating handouts, documents, reports, proposals, PowerPoint slides. You can ask yourself, have I used at least some of these design principles? Okay. All right, so I do have a second poll for you, and I'm not trying to hide this fact. I'm trying to have you help me finish creating that half-day class. I want to know what else you want to know about. So Marissa, if you're ready, if you could launch the poll, which document design topic is most interesting to you? So I have a list of 4. If there's something you're interested in that is not there, please put it in the chat. And I'm going to put a little visual cue so I know that after those plus signs, if anyone types anything, that's your request for what should be in the class. All right, we'll go about 15 more seconds. Thank you, everyone, for your responses. So far, the winner is integrating graphics, like tables and charts. That's the winner. All right, we've ended it. Thank you. Marissa is showing you the poll now so you can see what the winner is. Excellent. First is integrating graphics, and then pretty close are organizational strategies like headings and bullet points, and then accessibility. And then finally, typography preferences. Okay. Hey, Mo. Mo from Pasadena. How's it going? All right. So very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your opinion there. All right. As we start to wrap up, I love this owl. Okay, Cami has a question, and the owl is saying, what questions do you have? I may not be able to answer everything right now, but I do appreciate it, and you asking, and I'll do my best. So Cami writes, curious about the balance between too much text and enough text that the PowerPoint handouts can stand alone without the speaker. Oh, I have lots of thoughts about that, Cami. I'll be sure and include that in the half-day class, but I'm going to type something in the chat for everyone to see. I did not make this up. I don't remember where I saw it. Perhaps someone in here knows the origin. I don't know, but I have a typo. Let me fix it, and then I'll submit it in the chat. What I try to follow is this, the 4x4, 5x5, 6x6 rule. Here's what that means. If my PowerPoint has 4 bullets, 4 points, each one of those is about 4 words long. If I have 5 points on my slide, each one is approximately 5 words long, and then 6x6. Please note, there is no 9x9. That was your number one complaint, right? Too much stuff on the slide. This helps keep you honest. So I have had sometimes people say to me ask me about PowerPoint, how many slides are too many? How many is too many? I may have a somewhat unorthodox answer to that, but here it is, and I don't mean it in a rude way, but I don't care how many slides you have. Have as many as you need, as long as you can get through them in the time you've been given. I would rather you have double the amount of slides and half the amount of words on each slide. It's easier on my brain. It's less cognitive load. Yeah, Maureen, here's 4x4, 5x5, 6x6, and those are the only numbers in the rule. If your slide has 4 bullet points, each bullet point is only 4 words long on average. I mean, we don't have to be robotic about it, but close, okay? If you have 5 bullet points on your slide, each bullet point is 5 words long on average. 6 bullet points, you can have bullet points up to 6 words long. And I know I'm saying these are guidelines, but stick as closely to them as possible. You will like how it looks, and your audience will love how it looks, because you're not overwhelming them with text. Love the owl, Marcia. All right. So, as we start to bring it to a close, the date for the half-day class is June 25th. I would love to see you there so we can continue our discussion. And I do really thank you all for being at this webinar. And you've given me some ideas for, places for me to take this class that we'll be rolling out in June. Marissa is going to put, if you already know you want to be there, love it. And she is going to put the link to register for that class in the chat right now. You could go on the cpshr.us website anytime to sign up, but she has put it there for your reference in case you know you want to be there. Already. Thanks so much for being here with me today, everyone. I know I recognize many of your names. I've had you in class before. I've got some clients here. I've got friends. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, everyone.
Thank you, Allison.
Thanks, Marissa.
Before you guys go, I just have some things to wrap up with you, so where you can find the recording and whatnot. So first, again, thank you, Allison, for such an enlightening presentation. I do design work every day, and even I learned something new today. So I think I can say that for all of us, that it was very enlightening and informative. So thank you.
Thanks.
So just a few things. As a reminder to our attendees, this webinar has been recorded and will be available for replay on the CPS HR webinar page. So be sure to check it out, share with your colleagues, and just revisit the valuable information you heard today. While you're there, check out our other past webinars as well. At CPS HR Consulting, we're committed to partnering with government and nonprofit organizations. Our suite of services and products range from DEI, employee engagement, recruitment, training, test rental, classification and compensation, and so much more. If you're looking to transform your organization, contact us today to see how we can tailor our services to meet your unique needs. Our website is www.cpshr.us. Lastly, we invite you to share feedback on today's session. So please take a moment to complete our short survey that will appear after the webinar closes. Your thoughts help us improve our future webinars and tailor content to your needs. So thank you in advance for your time and insights. Once again, thank you, Allison, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. Our next webinar is scheduled for May 15th on fostering mental health from HR's perspective in honor of Mental Health Month. We hope to see you there. I will post everything in the chat where you can find the recording, more info about CPS HR, and again, how you can register for Allison's class in June.
Thanks so much, Marissa. Appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Thank you again, Allison. I'll email you with survey results and whatnot, and where you can find the link for today's recording. And just thank you again. And thank you, everybody else. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.